I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we explore an incredible journey of resilience, faith, and academic excellence with Dr. John Waters. He has written a powerful book. It is called The Son of My Father, the memoir of a preaching minister, educator. From a sickly child who wasn't expected to survive, John defied the odds to become a top academic, a passionate minister, and a distinguished educator. His powerful story is a testament to perseverance, faith, and the determination to succeed, even when the world tells you otherwise. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today on Spotlight. We thank the team at Atticus Publishing for helping us put him in the spotlight today. And we ask viewers like you to support authors like him by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing his amazing book. The links are below this interview. Doctor, great to see you here today on Spotlight.
Thank you. Good talking with you.
Let's start out focusing on your early life. How did your early struggles with illness shape your outlook on life and faith?
Well, I was a very sickly child. Of course, the condition I had, the physicians had suggested to my parents I would not live past the age of 5. Of course, now I'm 88, so I defied that.
Yeah.
I had 7 brothers and 2 sisters, all of whom were very healthy and out of the house. Because I was not very healthy, my father took a dislike to me. And that was the way it existed through his lifetime. With all of the things I achieved, including graduating with an honor from high school, he never bothered to attend any of those things.
Yeah, it's always very, very difficult when you have a conflict with a parent. It can impact you greatly. You were actually able, though, to take that adverse relationship with your father and focus it into a drive to succeed, right?
With the help of my mother and with people who simply saw in me things I didn't see in myself, I was able to move ahead in spite of the challenges with my father.
Mm. And reading played a big role in your life at a very young age. Tell us about how reading helped shape your future.
Well, I know I was reading at least by the age of 3.
Wow.
Much of it had to do with the fact that my mother would read to us, kill us around as children, she would read to us. But because my brothers and sisters were in school and there were books around, I learned to read with their help as well. So when I entered the first grade, I was reading ahead of anybody in my class.
Hmm. Amazing, amazing. And that continued throughout your school years, you being a strong achiever. How did it feel to graduate at the top of your class, despite the doubts of those around you?
Well, it felt great. Of course, uh, there were challenges in achieving that. Uh, I should have been number 1 or 2 in my high school graduating class, but I was not. I was number 5 because an English teacher and I had difficulties. And although I had never failed anything in her class, when my final report card came out, which was after graduation, she had given me a C in a class in which I had never scored less than 92.
Huh.
I showed that to my mother. She was very angry. And we went immediately to the high school and spoke to the principal and showed him all my classwork. And he told us he would take care of that. And so he changed that grade up to a B. And so that improved somewhat. But
Yeah.
having to deal with that, but I came to understand that life is not always easy, even when you put forth your best effort.
Life's not always fair. People will treat you harshly, prejudiciously, for very few reasons, no reasons, at their whim. And we're beholden to that sometimes, particularly when it's a teacher. Tell us what led you to pursue a career in both religion and education.
That's a long story. I was always interested in science and math, excelled in both of those.
Hmm.
Because of my interest in theoretical and organic chemistry, I got interested in the history of how all this came about, which led me to Hebrew philosophical thought. And so I pursued that, and that's how I end up with a degree in Hebrew Bible.
Yeah. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about your academic journey from Fisk University to Boston University and how it influenced your spiritual growth.
For our baccalaureate speaker at Fisk, I was a professor of homiletics from Boston University who spoke. His subject, I still remember, was your life is a biography of who you are, and let nobody change who you are. So when I was in the military and giving thought to when I returned home, having taught high school here in Atlanta, taught math and science, I decided for some reason, which people still ask me now, which I don't necessarily understand, that for some reason I should go to a seminary. And I applied to two, Boston School of Theology and Hartford Theological Foundation. I went to both visit Boston and Hartford. And for some reason, I fell more in love with Boston and decided to go there. Now, interestingly enough, I thought about it. When I was in Harvard, I never did visit Yale Theological School, which was also an excellent place. But I spent my time at BU, and while I was there, of course, as a relatively poor student, Boston University supplied 3/4 of my tuition scholarship. And I worked in its bookstore with Dr. Holcomb. And Dr. Holcomb asked me whether or not I had ever received a Theological Foundation scholarship. And so I told him, no, I had never even heard of it. And he told me because of my grade average, I would qualify, and he would recommend me to that. So he recommended me, and I received that, which I received for 3 years. I went to Boston University with the understanding that I was on an advanced degree program, and that I would finish that program, go directly into the PhD program. When I got to Boston University and took all the tests they had me to take, I was instructed to go see a Dr. Douglas, who was in pastoral counseling, and a Dr. Stotts, who was in sociology. I went to see Dr. Stott, and he looked at me and he said, Mr. Waters, I don't think you should take more than 12 hours per semester in order to do all right here. Well, I had been admitted with the understanding that I had to take at least 16 hours per semester in order to get on the PhD program. I picked up my paperwork and went directly to the office of the register and told them that Dr. Stotts could not even inform me how to cross the street. And from that point, he reassigned me. But in the meantime, I had to have the psychological examination. So I went to see Dr. Douglas. And he said to me, I don't know how to interpret these results from you. I knew what he was getting at because I was Black. And he was accustomed to dealing with white students. And he said, you should deal with me the same way you deal with anybody else. So that was the way my career began.
Amazing.
I finished the SCD program in less than 3 years, went directly into the PhD program. Boston gave me a fellowship for the PhD program. Also received recommendations and acceptance at Chicago Theological Seminary. But because Boston had paid 3/4 of my tuition all those years and continued to do so, I stayed there. And I'll tell people always that I'm a Baptist. Boston is the oldest United Methodist school in the country. At no time in those 6 years I was there did they ever ask me to become a United Methodist. And that I've always appreciated.
Yeah.
One of my professors was Dr. Harold Beck, who was an Hebrew Bible, but exceedingly gifted at homiletics. And so eventually he became my academic advisor and also preached my ordination service at the Ebenezer Baptist Church in Boston. Actually, my PhD advisor was H.D. Richardson, who's well known. And because of my relationship with him, when he passed, so I had always graduated from the University of Detroit, I was asked to come back to the school and give his eulogy. That was the impression I had made at Boston University.
Amazing.
I left Boston and got a number of offers. Well, I accepted an offer to teach at the University of Detroit, which is a Jesuit school. And so I went there. But I also was offered a teaching position at Western Theological Seminary in Washington, D.C. And the dean of that school came to personal interview and came to a church I was serving as an interested minister at the time and offered me a good position there. But I chose to go to the University of Detroit because it had an undergraduate program and a graduate program. And I was more interested in teaching at an undergraduate school than I was at that particular time at a theological seminary. So while I was in Detroit, which I stayed there for 6 years, I achieved tenure, became director of the Center for Black Studies, and stayed there from 1976 to 1986.
Wow.
So I got opportunities to travel, to do conferences, to preach in various places, gave a lecture at the University of Washington. And so that was the way it was. And a couple of people who left the University of Detroit and went other places, like one ended up at the University of Texas in Austin, Texas, who invited me down to give a lecture for his class. So I ended up speaking at the University of Texas at Austin. So for some reason, to say I never understand that people saw in me things I didn't necessarily see in myself. The School of Theology, a few years back, did a feature article on the front page of its Focus magazine for my work in the church and in the community. I'm also involved in the life of the community and the church I serve, the Greater Solomon Baptist Church in Riverdale, which is my home church. I never had thought about pastoring a church. I had gone to seminary to become a teacher. Right. And I make a distinction between a teacher and being an educator. So I become an educator to emphasize education over simply teaching. And sometimes I have to explain to people when I do a lecture or something why I make that distinction between the two. That teachers are simply interested in having you to reproduce what they have told you, whereas an educator wants to teach you how to think for yourself.
Right.
And so I emphasize in all the places I've taught to teach students to learn how to think for yourself and to know why you believe what you believe and not let anyone else force you to believe what they want you to believe. And that's how my life has gone. Much of that comes from, which is interesting, from what I learned from a French instructor at Fisk University, a French instructor. I was a chemistry major in college. Dr. Cartan will always say, let not society dictate your values. And I've learned to do that. Let not society determine for you the values you have for your life. Wonderful. So that has led me through my life. So in the pursuit of what I wanted to do, to know that I have to make the choices, and that life is about making the choices and living with the ramifications of those choices,
Mm-hmm.
realizing that the ramification of choices may be much later in life.
Mm.
And so I help people to understand that what you're suffering now are the consequences of how you lived much earlier in life. So when you deal with obesity, uh, diabetes, a
Mm-hmm.
host of issues, they're the results of how people started their lives, and their consequences come in their 40, 50, and 60 sometimes. So.
Exactly. Well, it's a wonderful guiding principle. And this book is just terrific. It's a life well lived. It's a book well written. The name of the book is The Son of My Father, the Memoir of a Preaching Minister Educator. It is an amazing journey from a sickly child to a man who became a top academic and a passionate minister, as well as a dedicated and distinguished educator. It's a wonderful book. It's a wonderful read. Doctor, thank you so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate your time. And to the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.